Alex Leatherwood, Alabama. Fundamentally, what do you think about, forget about the individual just for a second. Let's just start with, they tore down their offensive line. They drafted an offensive line with their first pick.
Always a believer. Quarterback's the most important. Raiders have a quarterback under contract. The most valuable players in every draft in the first round, you should always lean O-line, D-line. The Raiders have had success since you and I have been around them several times, going both high, right? Khalil Mack, boom, nailed it. Colton Miller, boom. Both guys, huge extensions. Gruden just chose to give that extension with someone else with Khalil. Colton Miller, extension, no problem. They've had a lot of success with just offensive linemen recently, right? The guys they signed, I have no issue with it. I do think one thing they've gotten a little happy with, and happy I just mean they kind of lean into it, is like they just kind of end up drafting a lot of guys from Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson. And I'm not against that, right? I mean, you look around the league, a lot of star players from those three schools, but are they just dead focused on that? Like, are they making a conscious effort? Because, for example, the Virginia Tech tackle, Darashaw, I think was viewed around the league as a better player than Leatherwood, but it just feels like they would just lean Alabama over that. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason.
Darashaw opt out this year?
I think he played.
Okay.
Obviously, Leatherwood played.
Yeah,
Leatherwood, because that Mayock said that was an issue in their draft room.
Yeah, I was just wondering. Leatherwood's played every game for 3 straight years. Now, he's almost 6'5", 312. Was a top prospect, coming out of high school. He was, I think, the 4th or 5th overall recruit. I think he was 4th. Jalen Phillips was 1. Najee Harris was 2 in the nation that year.
Bama did okay.
And Bama got the other running back. I forget the guy's name, but
probably still on the team.
Yeah, shorter last name. But in any event, I think when we were streaming live and this pick was made, a lot of Raider fans on YouTube commented that, they thought, I shouldn't say everybody said it was a reach, but like that this is a second-round player. Like this is a position, you and I talked about this. It's one thing to do it at safety, at corner, at running back, in the first round, pass rusher in the top 5. In the 20s, there's not a lot of tackles. Some people think he might be a guard. Fine. If he's a guard, fine. If he's a starting NFL offensive lineman, great. The other thing with them, you got to give them some credit, right, on Colton Miller. They drafted him. It was not immediately obvious that he was going to be an NFL starter. Now he is. That's development. So by that token, I'm good with this pick. I think it's fine.
Well, you hit it on the head. Gabe Jackson, I just Googled it, was pick 81. If I had told you that Gabe Jackson was pick 35, let's say 50 picks ahead, 9 years later, would anyone even be talking about it? He's a full-time starter since 2014.
No, John, the second he makes the Pro Bowl, no one talks about it.
So this guy, now there's more pressure when you're a 17th pick than obviously there was less pressure on Gabe Jackson. He was part of a draft class with Derek and Khalil. But my point is that no part of Gabe's, I guess, success is like, oh, you got him in the 3rd round. But if you had got him in the 2nd round, we would have talked about him exactly the same. So as long as this guy is just solid, right, they'll be good with it. Now, I just did a little texting around and like people tweeting that it was a little bit of a reach.
Let's hear it.
That's what I got, like Little Rich. Another guy said, I liked him more in the 50s than at 17, but I get it. And obviously coming from Alabama, like he's really athletic. He's twitchy. He's long. They clearly value. Colton Miller had similar characteristics, right? Long, big-time athlete. Not really sound. Like I think strength, but they just had an example where they found a very, very high-end player that who knows if Colton keeps getting better, he can become like a high-end player who lacks some strength, but it was just all talent. And that's the way – and this guy's tough. Obviously, he played Alabama, so he's talented. He's athletic. He's tough. What's there not to, just project? I just think relative to the class, there were guys that were more viewed as more plug and play. And that's the thing with the NFL, right? You'd be like, oh, Alabama, best line every year. That doesn't necessarily mean that their player at right tackle is better than another prospect in the draft at a lesser school, right?
Yeah.
Because you would always lean Alabama over Virginia Tech talking football. But when it comes to the draft, they might have a guy that's better in an individual position or viewed more as a future pro.
But isn't this a little different then? Like Damon Arnett was viewed as high floor, right? Cleveland Farrell, incorrectly, was viewed as high floor. Like the Raiders aren't taking a chance on the athleticism. This is more. Now again, they didn't really have a choice, I don't think, on Colton Miller. There were 2 tackles, it felt like, in that draft, and they got the second one. But in that vein, this is more, let's take a talented guy and let's coach him up. And here's the beauty for them. They've got spots. Like if he's a tackle, great, we got a spot for you. If you're a guard, great, we got a spot for you. So
yeah.
I guess they said they said they loved Denzel Good and Richie Incognito, and they loved Nick Martin, and we'll see Brandon Parker. Okay.
Yeah. Usually the 17th pick in the draft starts, right?
Yeah, I would hope.
Yeah, this guy,
He's a 3-year starter at Alabama, and one of those years he played guard.
I think the only question you would ask is,
didn't play high school. I did not play football till high school either, which we love that as a high ceiling thing.
I'll give you a major question. Would just be the next pick. One of their biggest weaknesses, really over decades, has been pass rush. They could have taken Jalen Phillips. Now, that's a risky pick, too. It's not like that would have been very risky.
Yeah.
Now, if Jalen goes on to have a dominant rookie year, that would have been a guy that I would have thought the Raiders would have had some interest. Right away, you get multiple pass rushers. You get Yannick. You get this guy. All of a sudden, you're cooking with gas, right? And that's where now, is this guy sitting there when they draft in the second round? I think they would tell you we don't think he would be, and probably not. But, some people might say, yeah, it's hard to tell. To me, I would just, could they have taken Jalen Phillips right there? That would have been a guy that you and I had talked about a lot with the Raiders, like, probably very tantalizing, right?
That was my pick for them. I would have liked to have seen it. I also understand they need to hit. They've made some picks where they were trying to hit a double and it turned out to be a single or a strikeout. So if you think this is definitely a double, hit a double. Right? Whereas Jalen Phillips is a home run swing. But again, it'd be one thing if he had retired from football because he hated playing it for Chip Kelly. You talked to him, you were convinced he loves football. But he has concussion history, so this is not totally in his control, right?
My favorite part about Jalen Phillips, he transferred schools, he retired. You talk about like he's 28. He's barely 22. Like, how's he so young? Was he like a 15-year-old senior in high school? It's crazy.
Think he was a major prospect right away. Was a huge part of Jim Moore recruited him.
I would imagine he was a massive national prospect by the time he was 15, 16 years old, right?
So I'm with you. I thought they would have gone defense, but if you're going to tear down your offensive line like they kind of did, you do need to replenish it. Protect Derek. Priority number 1.
Well, if you look in their division, like the Denver Broncos they're going to be a defensive team. That's just, I bet Teddy Bridgewater ends up starting, and it'll be like offense not as crazy, but defense, they get Patrick Surtain. So you get a guy that's viewed as a high-end corner, boom, in your division. The Chargers didn't outthink the room. Like, they just got offensive line help. And I think a guy viewed as the way Rashawn Slater was talked about for a long time, I think by NFL people and definitely by the people that know what they're doing, like he could go in like the top 7 or 8. That's the Chargers. I think both those two teams, like Patrick Surtain and Rashawn Slater, I'm just talking about 2 of the better players in this draft ended up in their division at important positions, right? Slater is going to be blocking Yannick. Surtain, well, what's he going to be doing? I don't know. Probably covering the guy that he went against in practice for years. Like, I bet he feels pretty good about Ruggs, right? I mean, that's just talent influx in your division. And what the Chiefs use their first round pick on? A tackle. I had no issue with taking offensive linemen.
Same.